Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into a chapter of human history that's often overlooked or sugar-coated: the dark, complex, and utterly devastating legacy of colonialism. We're talking about a period where European powers, driven by ambition and insatiable greed, reshaped the world, leaving scars that resonate even today across Africa, Asia, and the Americas. It's a story of exploitation, displacement, and immense human suffering, but also one of incredible resilience and the enduring fight for freedom. So, buckle up, because we're going to explore some uncomfortable truths, not to dwell in negativity, but to understand our past and build a more just future. Let's rewind to the 15th century. Europe was undergoing a period of intense change: the Renaissance, new technologies in shipbuilding, and a thirst for new trade routes. But this wasn't just about exploration. It was about expansion, dominion, and resource extraction on an unprecedented scale. Imagine the vast, diverse, and thriving societies that existed long before European ships arrived. In the Americas, civilizations like the Aztecs, Incas, and countless indigenous nations had complex political systems, rich cultures, and sophisticated agricultural practices. In Africa, powerful empires like Mali, Songhai, and Congo boasted vibrant trade networks and advanced knowledge. Asia, home to ancient empires like the Mughal and Ming dynasties, was a hub of innovation, art, and commerce. These weren't empty lands waiting to be discovered. They were living, breathing worlds. The moment European powers set foot on these lands, the narrative shifted dramatically. The promise of new resources, gold, silver, spices, land fueled a ruthless quest for control. One of the most immediate and horrifying consequences was the transatlantic slave trade. Millions of Africans were forcibly removed from their homes, torn from their families, and subjected to unimaginable brutality on slave ships, then forced into lifelong servitude in the Americas. This wasn't just economic exploitation. It was a profound act of dehumanization that built the wealth of colonial powers on the backs of stolen lives and labor. The sheer scale of this human tragedy is staggering, and its economic and social reverberations are still felt today in systemic inequalities. Beyond slavery, indigenous populations across the Americas faced their own unique forms of devastation. European diseases, against which native populations had no immunity, wiped out entire communities. But it wasn't just disease. Colonizers waged wars, displaced people from their ancestral lands, and systematically destroyed cultural practices and belief systems. Treaties were signed and then often broken, leading to forced migrations, known as Trail of Tears in North America, and the complete annexation of territories. The goal was often to civilize or Christianize these populations, which in practice meant stripping them of their identity and forcing assimilation. This cultural genocide left deep wounds that continue to impact indigenous communities today, who are still fighting for their land rights, cultural preservation, and self-determination. Moving to Asia, colonial ambitions took a slightly different, though equally destructive, path. European powers, notably Britain, France, and the Netherlands, competed fiercely for control over vital trade routes and resources like spices, textiles, and later, raw materials for industrialization. India, for example, under British rule, experienced massive famines, economic exploitation through unfair trade policies, and the dismantling of its traditional industries. The British East India Company, initially a trading company, evolved into a de facto ruling power, extracting immense wealth from the subcontinent. Opium wars in China, driven by British commercial interests, further illustrate how colonial powers prioritized profit over the well-being and sovereignty of Asian nations, leading to widespread addiction and political instability. The scramble for Africa in the late 19th century stands out as a particularly stark example of colonial greed. European powers literally carved up the continent among themselves at the Berlin Conference, with little to no regard for existing ethnic boundaries or political structures. This arbitrary division sowed seeds of conflict that continue to plague many African nations today. Resources like rubber, diamonds, and minerals were extracted with brutal efficiency, often through forced labor and horrific violence, as seen in the Belgian Congo. Infrastructure was built primarily to facilitate resource extraction, not for the benefit of local populations. Education and healthcare systems were often minimal or designed to serve colonial interests. leaving newly independent nations with immense challenges. It's crucial to understand that colonialism wasn't just about economic exploitation, it was also about asserting cultural and racial superiority. The idea that Europeans were inherently more civilized or advanced was used to justify their actions, creating a rigid hierarchy that denigrated local cultures, languages, and religions. This narrative of superiority had long-lasting psychological impacts, fostering self-doubt and internal divisions within colonized societies, the destruction of local governance structures, the imposition of foreign legal systems, and the suppression of indigenous knowledge created dependencies that were hard to break even after independence. So why is it so important to revisit this dark history? Because the echoes of colonialism are everywhere. They're in the geopolitical landscape, the global economic disparities, the ongoing struggles for racial justice, and the discussions around reparations and decolonization. Understanding this past isn't about assigning blame in a simplistic way, but about acknowledging historical injustices and recognizing how they continue to shape our present. It's about learning from mistakes, understanding the roots of inequality, and working towards a more equitable and inclusive world. The journey towards decolonization, while bringing formal independence to many nations, often left them with fragile economies, arbitrary borders, and deep-seated political challenges. The fight for true sovereignty and self-determination continues for many, highlighting the long shadow of colonial rule. But amidst this darkness, there's also a powerful story of resistance, resilience, and the enduring human spirit. From the Haitian Revolution, where enslaved people fought and won their freedom, establishing the first free Black Republic, to the independence movements across Africa and Asia, people have continuously fought back against oppression. These struggles for liberation are testaments to courage, unity, and an unwavering belief in human dignity. So, as we reflect on this heavy history, let's remember that understanding our past is a powerful tool for shaping our future. It helps us appreciate the diversity of human experience, challenge harmful stereotypes, and advocate for justice and equality. Learning about the dark history of colonialism isn't about feeling guilt, but about gaining perspective, fostering empathy, and committing to building a world where such injustices are never repeated. Thank you so much for joining me on this important discussion today. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, share it with others who might benefit, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue to explore these crucial topics and build a community dedicated to understanding our world better. See you in the next one.